D-Lo 404. Hey, shout out to all those corner tricks and the whole block fam. Shout out to the LDBC as well. Alright, so I looked at the Laila Ali interview with Sway once again today. This time I looked at it from start to finish. I didn't just look at the part where she got into talking about boxing. I looked at the whole video in totality because when I saw it the first time, I kept on, based on basically what I saw and what I interpreted, was totally different from what I kept hearing on a lot of videos and live streams where people were talking about the interview. Everything I kept hearing was that she was being disrespectful toward Shields, and basically she was calling out Shields for the fight and saying that, you know, it'll take this much for the fight, this, that, and the other. And maybe she said that somewhere else about the fight, but everything I keep hearing and seeing is in reference to the Sway interview. Well, when I watched the interview, what I heard was Laila talk about how when Claressa first won the gold, she was over there covering the Olympics. She was supportive. Claressa would text her. They talked back and forth. There was a relationship and a rapport built between the two of them. She also talked about offering Shields a sparring session. She said, you know, I'm out of shape, but I can go 4 rounds anytime. And Shields, you know, decided she didn't want to do that, or just never took her up on it. She didn't turn her down, but she never took her up on the offer. And she didn't say anything about that in terms of saying that Shields was afraid or anything like that. She basically just said that, you know, that kind of told her a little bit about, you know, where Shields was at that particular time in terms of, you know, how she was feeling or so forth. You know, and I'm hearing a lot of talk about hate, and I'm not seeing the hate in that video. I'm not. I mean, I've even paused and re-listened to sections of it. And even like, you know, I heard somebody reference, you know, when she said something about Claressa being a girl from Flint, that some kind of that way that was tongue-in-cheek or meant as an insult. And even that, all she said was that she backed her because she was a black girl from Flint, Michigan. And she basically felt like it was in her duty to try to uplift and help Claressa along. You know, and she talked about the Muhammad Ali way, saying that that's the way her father taught her. You know, that you help other people and you don't step on other people to get to where you're trying to get to. Things of that nature. She talked about that she feels like Claressa should be saying that she can beat her and that she should call herself the GOAT, so to speak. But she said at the same time, just because she says that doesn't mean that's what she is. And Laila should say that because Laila herself thinks she's the greatest woman fighter of all time. So if the two feel the same way, then of course one's not going to concede to the other. You know, if Kobe Bryant genuinely feels like he's the greatest basketball player that ever lived, he's not going to in turn say, well, I'm the greatest basketball player besides Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan's not going to say, well, I'm the greatest basketball player ever besides Dr. J. And vice versa. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't work that way. So that's all I'm seeing and hearing and for myself when I interpret the interview. But I do understand that it's buzzworthy to talk about these two fighting one another. Laila Ali is 42 years old, has been out of the ring over 13 years. She says she walks around at nearly 200 pounds. She will be at a big deficit trying to get herself into fighting shape to fight arguably the best women's boxer out right now. And if she did do so, I don't think there's an amount of money that's too much for her to ask for that fight, because it would be a big fight, but at the same time, it's not really a realistic fight. But it could become realistic if the powers that be and the power shakers and brokers in boxing put it together. Then, of course, you're talking about a landmark fight for women's boxing. And it will kind of be the equivalent of, just say, if Muhammad Ali was, you know what I'm saying, in shape and didn't have his health issues that he had in the latter part of his career. Just say if he stepped away from boxing at, say, 30 and then came back at 42 and there was somebody like, just say Larry Holmes at that time, was the kingpin of the heavyweight division. They had a bout, but here Ali's been away from the sport 12 years. I mean, that's the kind of gravity that this fight could have for women's boxing. But that said, I'm not upset if this fight doesn't happen. I'm not upset if it's just talk, if it's something to just publicize one of the personalities or the other. The reality is that for someone who's been away from a sport for over a decade to go back into that sport, and I'm not even talking about just a combat sport, I'm talking about any sport, you're asking a lot to go back and compete at the highest level straight away. We saw what happened to the heavyweight kingpin, Vladimir Klitschko, coming off the couch 2 years out of the ring. Still looked to be in phenomenal shape, but there were things that you could tell as a boxing fan watching the fight. There were spots where he seemed not to be able to pull the trigger, or he seemed not to see things that he would have seen years earlier. And that was just a little better than 2 years out of the ring, or a little under 2 years out of the ring, I mean. So, for me, if it's something Laila and Claressa want to do for themselves, for the sport of women's boxing, for their legacies, I'm all for it. If it's not something they're interested in doing, then I'm not going to harp on it. You know, because before these interviews were conducted, and mind you, let me add that Laila Ali was only talking about Claressa Shields because Sway played an interview of Shields talking about Laila Ali, and actually Shields was the one who said something that could be construed as distasteful when she was talking about Laila Ali, and then Laila was saying it in response. But then Laila Ali did also say in that interview that, you know, Claressa Shields had said about her in the past that she respects her as a businesswoman, but does not respect her as a fighter. And with that being said, you can understand how Laila could have some disdain for Claressa Shields. But all in all, I will say once again, listen to the interview. I didn't hear or interpret anything as disrespect toward Claressa Shields or slight on Claressa Shields, other than her critiquing Claressa Shields, just like boxing fans do fighters every day. And other fighters critique other fighters, especially the fighters that are retired. They critique the current fighters all the time. And she basically was critiquing Claressa Shields on why she feels Shields didn't get knockouts. And Laila even admitted that in her time, you know, she thinks basically it seems like she was crediting Claressa Shields that the crop of fighters that she's fighting today are better opposition than what Laila had to choose from in her day. She was saying it was hard to get the fights that she wanted to fight, and she was having to fight people that she felt like was a mismatch at times. But she had to go in there and do her job. So, all in all, I felt like it was a good piece. It wasn't, disrespectful, especially for something that wasn't initially supposed to be the topic of conversation. I think the topic was supposed to be about what Laila has going on in her life currently, which is not stuff involving boxing. It's about her line, her brands, and things of that nature. But, like I said, when Sway played that interview, it's in Laila's nature to respond. And that was what they wanted. But even with Sway, when one of the other guys was trying to say something to kind of like egg it on more, Sway was like, no, man, chill, you know. So, I mean, man, I enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed the interview. I always enjoy Claressa's interviews as well. I have no issue with anything that was said. I think it's good, back and forth. And I'm not seeing this as hate. I think that some of the people that are talking about this as hate, I don't know if they never had anyone hate on them in their life, or they never saw what real hate looks like. But I didn't see hate in any of this. But that's all I got to say on the subject. This video is already going on further than I planned on it going. Hey, D-Lo 404 Boxing, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'm out. Peace.